City of Angels, where stars shine bright. A new chapter unfolds on the gridiron. Buckle up, because the Rams are about to electrify the NFL. All Los Angeles Rams games can be heard right here on KSHP, AM 1400 and 107.1 FM. Los Angeles Rams football, sponsored by Steiner's Pub, a true Nevada-style pub.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Christmas Eve. Hope everyone's doing good out there. Some great guests we got lined up for you today. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Ben Berkwam is the founder of Frontline America, and we got into a heavy debate at AmFest. It was pretty heavy. He's agreed to come on this show, so he's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Ben seems like a nice guy, so I'm looking forward to talking to him. And then host of the Karen Hunter Show on satellite radio. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Karen Hunter is going to be joining us in hour number 2. A lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Of course, more fallout with the Epstein files and the economy and the lies from the Trump administration. Man, there's so much to put together here. And I figured, what better person to break it all down on Christmas Eve than the man himself, the editor-in-chief of Midas Touch, Ron Filipkowski, joining us right now on the program. Ron, it is good to see you, my friend. Happy holidays. How are you? Did we lose Ron?
I apologize.
There you go.
I got to hit the green button here.
That's okay.
I was going to say, you went to the AmFest, huh? The Kirk thing?
I spoke with Jack Posobiec. I was invited, believe it or not, Ron, to a Michael Knowles party. I spoke with Michael Knowles. We had a very pleasant conversation. Most of the conversations I had were actually very pleasant. Is it that they're two-faced? I don't understand, but Jack could not have been nicer to me, and we've gone at it on Piers Morgan. I was a little surprised, Ron, but I didn't see anybody else on the left there. Like, I felt like I was the only one.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how long that they're able to keep that thing going the way it is. I know, they're enjoying, right? I shouldn't say enjoy. In the wake of Kirk's, assassination, they're having a large groundswell of money coming in, attention, right, all of that. But I think the way that went down would not have gone down the way it did if Charlie was around, because Charlie was to a great extent a peacemaker among that whole group. Mm-hmm. And you can see the first AmFest, which is their biggest annual event that they have without Charlie, turns into a shit show with everybody fighting and attacking each other. And none of that would have happened if Charlie was around. Completely
agree with you, 150%. On a side note, I got a chance to hang out with Adam Mockler. He's been doing my show for years, and it was nice to hang out with him and a couple other people from Midas, and they're just the nicest people. Adam's such a good dude, and I thought he destroyed Scott Jennings once again. Yes, last night.
I know, it's great. It's great to watch a kid just completely annihilate Jennings night after night.
You know what it is about Adam? It's not just that he's so intelligent, but he's very humble. I mean, this is at his age to have the following that he has, and I just see the way he talks to people, and he's a very humbled person, and that's what I love about Adam, and he's a fun guy to have a beer with, too.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was exactly thinking about that earlier today. I was thinking about how good he is and how he's getting so much better, and I was thinking, man, CNN is going to want to really lock this guy up. And I'm thinking, so much so fast is coming to this guy, and he's a young kid, and you wonder, like, is he going to lose it, the authenticity? Is he going to let things go to his head, the fame, all that kind of stuff? Because this guy can be very successful at a very young age. He already is.
Yeah.
But I hope that I don't sense from him that he's that way. I mean, I think that he seems to be a very level-headed kind of guy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think he's going to be around for a very, very long time, and he'll be able to do whatever he wants to do. But yeah, really
Not
nice.
Like us. I mean, we'd be out partying. We'd be in clubs, we'd be, signing autographs, Mockler's humble.
That's true. Parker and Dean were out there too, just got a chance to meet some people. Listen, Nick Sorto, I ran into him. It wasn't a great conversation, but I did make amends with Cam Higsby and, I'm kind of in the twilight zone because it's weird, Ron, because I'm walking around, and this would definitely happen to you. I'm walking around inside AmFest, and I had a lot of people come up to me and shake my hand, and they said, listen, I disagree with everything you say, but I respect you being here and be willing to have that conversation. And to me, that's the best compliment you can get, when people say that. So listen, I had a few bad experiences, but for the most part, everybody treated me with respect, and I really appreciated that. And I told Jack that, even though I think Jack is two-faced. I think Jack is a phony. Yeah. But with that being said, I did have a good time, and I don't regret going. Ron, I want to ask you, obviously, the biggest story of the last couple days, and it seems like for months and months, the Epstein stuff that came out. We have this limo driver that spoke to the FBI. We have an alleged victim that said that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein raped her. What do you make of all this stuff? And what do you make of MAGA Republicans that say, well, no charges were filed, there's nothing to see here?
Well, I can't imagine very many of them are saying that. I mean, probably some, but look, this thing has been bungled by the Trump administration from day one. This has just been a complete disaster, how they're handling it even to this day, right now, dribbling these things out. And some of the stuff that they have not put out yet is probably going to be the most damaging things, which is all the interviews that they did with all the victims where they were naming the perpetrators. And keep in mind, these are people that these victims could name today, but they're afraid of being sued by a lot of these people who are very wealthy and very powerful and politically connected. So I think what has been released so far is like the tiniest tip of the iceberg, that there's going to be a lot worse that's out there. They're playing games with this stuff, dribbling it out and dribs and drabs, and that's a huge mistake. Think about it. If they'd have just dumped everything out there, redacted back in January or February, when really there was no Democrats at all paying any attention to Epstein. The only people who were clamoring for the Epstein files was Republicans, was the MAGA people. It wasn't even really on Democrats' radar very much back then. But it was when the moment when Bondi came out and said, and Trump came out and said, we're not releasing it. The investigation's closed, which was like April or something that they said that, April, May. That was really the moment, I think, where all the Democrats said, whoa, there must be something. For him to tell his own base, who is demanding this stuff, screw you guys, we don't care what you think. I mean, people like Bongino and Patel even, we're not putting anything out. I think that caused a lot of Democrats to go, there must be some really bad stuff in here. And I think a lot of Democrats maybe didn't realize that, but the extent to which Bondi and Trump have covered this up and hiring, so many FBI agents go through this for a month, this stuff months ago, I think has just lit it on fire. It's drawn way more eyeballs, way more attention to it. It's become a daily national story that could have gone away a long time ago if they'd have handled it right, I think. They would have taken a short-term hit maybe, but, whatever. But this has just been a disaster. And now they've shifted over their campaign crew, the Alex Brusowitz and all those guys that did the rapid reaction, like Trump campaign accounts. They're now handling the DOJ social media accounts. So they're, people like Steve Chung and them. I mean, so they're putting out these nasty, vicious posts from the Department of Justice account. It's just at every turn, they are making this worse and worse and worse for themselves.
Agree. I want to ask you, they release all these pictures of Bill Clinton, and they don't put out a tweet saying anything about that, but yet they put out this information, whether it be accidentally or not, where Donald Trump is named in some of these files. And then they put out a tweet, and now we're learning that tweet was, was basically saying, what it read. I'm paraphrasing here, but it basically said, don't always believe everything you read in here. They didn't do that for Bill Clinton when they released that information. And now we're learning that the White House is actually in charge of that X account, which is insane. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you have Steve Chung running that account. I mean, it's just like literally like the worst person worst person in terms of communications in the White House. I mean, the worst person's Stephen Miller, but I'm talking about the worst person from a comms perspective. Yeah, I mean, it's just the Clinton stuff. I mean, Bill Clinton put out a tweet. He's like, release everything. Go ahead. I don't care. Put it all out. And so, it kind of took the wind out of their, I mean, they were all, when the Clinton stuff came out, there are a handful of paid influencers, including Posobiec, who you mentioned, that whole crew was out there trying to get people excited about the Clinton stuff. There wasn't anybody that really cared that much. I mean, even the MAGA people were like, sigh, there's no big revelation here about Clinton. We all knew the hot tub photo. That's the best you can come up with. That wasn't even Epstein Island. That was a hotel. I mean, it's like, what did you get out of that? And who cares about Bill Clinton anyway? You don't see any Democrats out there going to the mat for Bill Clinton. Right. It's like, hey, whatever. If he's implicated, fine. Let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. So it's like, trying to own the libs by doing that was like the stupidest thing in the world. Because they're still hiding a lot of stuff about Trump and his friends.
There's obviously, as you know, Ron, a lot of people on the right for years have been talking about pedophilia and sex trafficking and all the liberal elitists in Hollywood. They're all pedophiles. Laura Loomers of the world, people that people that you talk to. Yeah. And I find it interesting that all this Trump stuff comes out, and if they say anything at all, they usually defend Donald Trump. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, because the reason why they've been calling for the Epstein files for so many years is because they didn't think that Trump was implicated in any of it. They had deluded themselves into buying Trump's story. Trump's narrative for years has always been like, I didn't know anything about any of that. And the second I got wind of it, I cut all ties and had nothing to do with him again. And I really barely knew the guy. He'd sometimes come at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, that was the narrative that he sold them. And they believed that narrative. And now all this stuff is starting to come out. And I think it's sort of surprising them, because this is what they thought. They thought Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent, or at least controlled by Israel, to come here and set up powerful people and to get blackmail information on media and politicians, the vast majority of whom they thought were Democrats. That's what MAGA thought. And that is why they demanded the Epstein files. Instead, all the attention has been on Trump and Trump's connection. So it's literally blown up in their face. It's backfired on them tremendously. And Trump kind of knew that. That's why he didn't want the stuff to come out. He knows what's in there. I mean, he probably may not know 100%, but he knows 90% of what's in there about him. And he clearly did not want it to come out. And it's not just him, it's his friends. So I think for a lot of the MAGA people, like, they still want to hang on to that belief that Trump is entirely innocent and all of that. But I think it's getting harder and harder for them to deny reality.
Parnas from Midas Touch, he does a great job, and he made a good point. He said maybe the most important file or that was released, or at least statement, was that there were 10 co-conspirators. Yep. Why were they not charged? Obviously, they haven't been named. Yep. Why haven't anybody been charged? That's a question that somebody needs to answer, right?
Who are they? And what is the evidence against them? I mean, why weren't they? Was there something that exonerated them? Was there insufficient proof? Because what we really don't have is the FBI reports. The reports that, for example, they put out that one letter, which was maybe not a letter from Epstein that he wrote to Larry Nassar about, where he mentioned Trump, right? So then they say, well, this is fake. The FBI did analysis of it. First of all, most likely there is an FBI report about that letter from years ago when they first, because it went to Virginia, it went to FBI headquarters. That letter was transferred from the prison to FBI headquarters. So clearly somebody at the FBI years ago looked at this. And I can tell you, I was a federal prosecutor. They would have had to write a report. Even if it's 1 page or a 2-page supplemental report, they would have said, we looked into this, we followed up on it, we did a handwriting analysis, whatever. So there is definitely a report out there about this letter, but they didn't put out that report. They just put out the letter, a firestorm ensues, and then they put out a tweet saying the letter's a fake, and without any proof of why it's fake. So it's just, Todd Blanche is running the whole show here. This is not Bondi. This is not Patel. This is not Bongino. Blanche is basically, at this point, Trump's criminal defense attorney before Trump became president, and he's this criminal defense attorney now. He's working full time on suppressing and pushing down as much stuff that can tie Trump and his friends to Epstein as possible.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, but didn't Kash Patel lie under oath when he said there was no credible evidence of any type of sex trafficking? When you look at the actual files themselves, it totally contrary to what Kash Patel said under oath.
He said there was nobody else involved, nobody else implicated. Now, what he could have said is he could have said, well, there were a number of other people involved, but there was insufficient evidence to charge them. We couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, he could have said, I think there's enough evidence there, but DOJ, Bill Barr decided not to charge these people back then. He could have said that, but he chose not to. He said, there's no one else implicated. Epstein acted alone. Nobody knew about the pedophile stuff. He was
right.
I mean, why would Patel say that? It's bizarre, especially after like having a whole podcast career off the Epstein files, claiming that, you know, it was all this horrible stuff. And then all of a sudden he does like a 180. Why? Well, it's because he saw, I think what he did is he saw all this damaging stuff about Trump and his cronies. We can't forget that. And he just wanted the whole thing to go away as quickly as possible and do a 180 on everything.
I tend to agree with you there. I want to ask you about Mark Epstein because, you know, Mark Epstein did this show way before he was doing all these national shows. Time and time again, he has said on the record, even on this show, that he believes Donald Trump had something to do with his brother's death. And now we're learning in the Epstein files, which I didn't even know, he actually wrote to the FBI, gave them a tip, for lack of a better term, saying that he believed the reason why his brother was, in his opinion, murdered is because he was going to be naming names. I'm just wondering what you make of that, which was actually in the Epstein files.
Yep. I think that the number of people who believe that Epstein killed himself gets lower every single day.
Yeah.
I think that it was maybe like 50-50, 60-40 a year ago. And now there's probably like 10% that believe he killed himself. And, you know, it's hard for Trump or Barr or anybody to blame anybody else because they were the ones that had him in their custody when they were in charge of the government and the Bureau of Prisons. So it's not like this is some way they can point their finger at somebody else. So I suspect there's a lot more in the Epstein files about this, about not only what his brother said, but I mean, we already saw that they considered putting a rabid pro-Trump guy and making him his cellmate. I think there's probably a lot more about the Epstein death that's going to be in these files that's probably going to come out. I believe that the smart thing for them to do would have been to put out all the worst stuff right on the front end and just get it over with. But instead, they've decided to backload the worst stuff and put it out kicking and screaming if they ever do, because some of this is probably going to end up in court or congressional hearings. But by waiting and releasing the worst stuff, it's going to make it just 10 times worse.
Yeah, and people are going to continue to talk about it too. I completely agree with you. So I hate to bring up this name, Ron, but in this situation, I guess I will. Katie Miller, who I think is a despicable human being, obviously the wife of Stephen Miller. So we're around the holidays right now, and Donald Trump and his administration, as you know, have mentioned about wage garnishment up to 15% for student loan debt, some that are in default. This is worrying a lot of people. And Katie Miller goes on social media and she says, if you take a loan, you have to pay it back. Otherwise, it's just called theft. Isn't that what these rich billionaires have done and what Donald Trump has done for years, paying pennies on a dollar and not having to pay back? Does she not understand that? It's so stupid. I mean, does she not understand that?
Every time you turn around, it's like they embrace political issues. They used to joke all the time that like they could get Democrats to take the 20 side of an 80-20 issue, like trans and sport, immigration, that's what they used. That's what they joked about in 2024 was how often they were able to get Democrats to stake out minority positions that the majority of the country doesn't favor. And yet over the last several months, they continue to take out one position after another that only a percentage of their base favors. I mean, this is crazy how they're going to garnish wages. I understand if they want to try and collect student debt or count it against your credit or whatever, strip away a lot of the protections and stuff that Joe Biden tried to put in for student loan debt. Strip away a lot of those things. I get that being like a Republican position that wouldn't really hurt them too bad, but garnishing wages, you're talking about, these are people that are unable to make their student loan payments because their income is not as high as it was expected to be, or they're unemployed. And largely that is a reason because we have a dismal job market. So you're going to take people who don't have enough money to pay their bills, and now you're going to garnish their wages, which is like the most ruthless thing you can do. Take it directly out of their check where they don't even get to see the money. They don't get to argue, hey, I can't afford that payment. No, it's just taken from you. So while people like Donald Trump over the years, whenever they failed and whenever they couldn't make a loan, they just file for bankruptcy, reorganize, renegotiate their debt. Or you had all these politicians get the PPP loans that were forgiven, right? I mean, you have so many wealthy people in this country who don't pay their debt or get debt forgiven. For them to go after the literally like the poorest, most vulnerable people and garnish their wages, also at a time when credit card debt is at an all-time high this year, it's brutal, and it's going to hurt them because we're talking about right now there are 5 million Americans in default. So 5 million people will get their wages garnished. And the Department of Education predicts by this time next year, 10 million Americans will be in default. So you could literally have 10 million working class Americans having their wages garnished by the Trump administration. Good luck in the midterms.
Yeah, and while many of those people, I would imagine, are on Medicaid, many of those people are on food assistance, food stamps, and a lot of those people are going to be losing those government programs as well. Just absolutely a mess.
The ACA subsidies, yeah,
right. I mean, it's just a mess. Ron, I don't know. Are you working on Christmas Eve? Are you actually still writing your newsletter and all that stuff? Are you still doing that?
Not today. I did my podcast today, but I do have 2 massive things coming up.
Okay.
One is the 26th. I'm doing the 10 worst villains in the Trump administration.
I love it.
1 through 10, who are the worst people. And I can tell you this was so hard for me to put together because I have like 23 names that I wrote down. And it's like trying to decide who's out is the hardest, is so hard because there are so many people that didn't make the top 10 who are just wretched, horrible people. And they can't even crack the top 10 because there's so many terrible people on this list. So I'm not going to tell you who my top 10 is, but it's going to be a countdown. A lot of thought went into it. I have a lot of reasons for it. Maybe 1 or 2 surprises.
Okay.
But, so I got that coming out on the 26th.
My top villain is Stephen Miller. I'm just telling you who my top villain would be. I'm not saying that's yours, but that would be mine.
He might be in the top 10 somewhere.
Okay.
I'm not going to say what, but yeah, I tried to spread it around like different areas too.
I like it. I can't wait to read this. This is very interesting.
That when you look at like the law enforcement type people, so you got Bondi, Patel, and then you got their deputies like Bongino and Blanche.
Yeah.
So I got to pick one of those 4. I can't have multiple. I don't think make
a tough decision. It's a tough decision.
I mean, it's just brutal. But I can tell you that I can tell you this. I went with Blanche because I really think that Blanche is the evil person who's really running all of that.
He's Trump's personal attorney still.
I mean, what a Patel. I mean, he's flying around with his girlfriend on the jets. He's a dope. He's an idiot. I mean, and Bongino's leaving, and I think Bondi is not really running the show. I think it's Blanche.
Agree.
And I can just tell you, like, of those 4, that's my pick. So that's number 1. And then the number 3, the last one is the biggest thing of all. You know this because sometimes you hear Trump supporters, MAGA supporters say, I challenge a lib to name 5 things about Donald Trump they don't like, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't come up with anything. I mean, I see those posts all the time. So I decided, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put out the 500 worst things Donald Trump did this year. This year, I'm going to put out 100 a day, 1 through 100, starting on the 27th and the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. Last one on the 31st. I'm going to list out 500 terrible things that Donald Trump did in 2025. So they challenged libs to come up with 5. Here's 500.
I'm gonna dedicate a show to this. I'm gonna go through some of your stuff because that's gonna be a lot of. I can't wait to.
And
so
there
this
will
is
be a link to each one.
And this is coming out tonight. You're releasing this tonight?
No, that comes out the 27th.
Okay. So in
2
a
days
couple
after
days.
Christmas. I don't want to put out that during Christmas time.
And when is this top 10 coming out?
Top 10 is the day after Christmas. So
oh wow,
26th is the top 10 worst, and then the 27th through the 31st will be the 500.
I cannot wait.
And then back to normal stuff. But this is going to be pretty epic. Both things, I think. Especially, I mean, the 500 is going to be good. And they're going to be in chronological order. Those aren't going to be ranked. It's just going to be January 1st.
Gotcha.
Boom. So the first 100 is probably going to be January to March.
Imagine if you had to put together his first administration, all the horrible things he did. You probably could come up with 500,000 things. But it's absolutely insane. I cannot wait to read this in a couple days. And we will probably dissect it on the show. Ron, one of the hardest working men in the business with Midas Touch. If I don't talk to you, Ron, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas Eve and Christmas. And we'll catch up with you at some point next week. But always appreciate the time, my friend. Enjoy it.
Same to you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Ron. Thank you. That's Ron Filipkowski, everybody. As I say before, and I always say this when he leaves the show, and he does this show every week, and we're very grateful for that. Ron is one of the smartest guys I know. He's one of the best in this business. He is so good at what he does. He just lays everything out and dissects it and is factual and just so smart about it. And he's always on the right side. And another thing that I like about Ron is that he makes predictions. And it seems like almost all of his predictions usually come to fruition. And then he takes the actual tweet. He's like, I told you this was going to happen. And then he retweets his own tweet. And you could see, I mean, he's very good about predicting the future. Eventually, I'm going to have to ask him about the midterms. And I'm probably also going to have to ask him about who he thinks is going to run in 2028. Obviously, I have my opinions on that. I believe if the presidential elections had to be held tomorrow, I believe it would be J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio running as his VP. And if I had to guess, I would say Gavin Newsom. And boy, it's hard to pick who he would choose as a VP, but I would say AOC. That's my top choice right now. And I don't know what could happen between now and then. We obviously still have a lot of time before the elections, of course. But that's my personal opinion. If the elections were held tomorrow, as I said, there's a lot of time, between now and then. So it is a little bit difficult to predict. But I think for the most part, I think those are probably the front runners. Obviously, we're talking about the Epstein files and the files that were released and what was redacted and what information has come out. I find it utterly despicable that Donald Trump, especially during the holidays, is now working for wage garnishment up to 15% for student loan debt and for people out there. Listen, Joe Biden was trying to do the opposite, right? Joe Biden was trying to do the opposite, student loan debt forgiveness. He was trying to help people that were struggling. This is the history of the Republican Party. They want to punish people. There's a lot of people out there that have college degrees, a lot of people out there that aren't able to pay their student loan debt for a lot of different reasons, and to just garnish their wages up to 15%, when I would imagine many people rely on that money to pay their bills, to pay their rent, the absolute necessities, and they haven't done it. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Ben Berkwam is the founder of FrontlineAmerica.com. He'll be joining us next. It's going to be an all-out, duke-it-out debate. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York-style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America Tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on Christmas Eve on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. So many of you are aware, you've seen my videos. I was out there at AmFest in Phoenix over the weekend, and I met a lot of people that maybe have not said nice things about me, and I haven't said some nice things about them. But, you know, everybody was very nice to me. So we're at these Un-F America Tour tables where I'm doing debates with people that are walking in and out of AmFest. And I was credentialed, so I did go in there as well. And I come across a guy that I know. I've seen his videos all over the place. You know, and I said, I hate you, which probably I shouldn't have said, and I apologize for that. But I did get his attention. And I have watched a lot of his videos, and I think at times he's very funny. His name is Ben Berkwam. He is the founder of Frontline American and the host of Law and Border on Real America's Voice News. And Ben was nice enough to have a 10 or 15-minute debate with me outside the event, which I appreciated. And he's also nice enough to be joining me right now. Ben, I really do appreciate you being here. Happy holidays, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, brother. Merry Christmas. Glad to be with you, man. This is, to me, you know, what I saw out there and what we did a little bit of is actually what got me started originally, was going out and with my cell phone originally as a nobody, just somebody who cared, living in California, wanting to have conversations and try to find common ground where we could. You know, a lot of times that's, you know, it seems like, especially from where the media portrays us, that we all hate each other, you know, like you said, but I get it. You know, there's that divide. And so that's how it originally started. Now, not all of my content is that, you know, you can tell sometimes I instigate some or provocate some response. But I also really do try to find common ground where it can be found. And in particular today, I think there's a need for that more than ever.
Completely agree with you. My criticism is that I don't think Donald Trump is capable of bringing people together. I just don't. There are Republicans that are capable of doing that. I think Donald Trump is the last one to do that. I wanted to ask you this to start. You know, we heard a lot from MAGA Republicans about how the left are the pedophiles and Hollywood elitists and all this other stuff. I'm wondering now what has crossed your mind when all these Epstein files have been released. And we know Donald Trump's all over the Epstein files. I don't know whether he committed any crimes or not. But as a Christian man yourself, obviously, I would imagine you take this very seriously, as I do. Does it bother you at all when there are alleged victims that are claiming that Donald Trump raped them? When you have a limo driver who spoke to the FBI about this and confirming these stories? I mean, and we haven't even seen all the files that have come out yet. I'm just wondering, what's your take on this?
Look, we just had an interview with Alan Dershowitz right after they came out yesterday. He was obviously the attorney for Epstein and several others, and been a Democrat attorney for years. And he came out and said, basically, what's been released for the most part against President Trump is either lies or misrepresentation. I don't know. I mean, I look at the whole thing and I say, clearly there were some really bad people involved. I would just say this. If there was any dirt on President Trump, damning evidence that showed that he committed any crimes, that he mistreated any women, young women, underage women, that would have already been released. I mean, when you look at what was done in his first administration, the first 4 years, we had the Russia collusion hoax, we had Perkins Coie, we had all of these foreign espionage lies about President Trump that actually led to an impeachment in the House against him that we know now were totally made up, bogus BS. If they had anything on President Trump, it would have been released because they had this. You know, all of this, the FBI's been sitting on this for years. They had it all the way through Biden's term. they would have released it. There's no doubt in my mind that it would have leaked from somewhere. It would have been released. But I agree with you when we were talking about it. I think it all should be released. Now, the problem is when we find out that a lot of these reports were given in 2020. This is what Dershowitz said. You know, a lot of this stuff, that in particular about President Trump, was given as evidence in 2020 leading up to the election. You know, it's kind of like the whole Me Too movement when everyone came out and said, believe all women. Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe all women. I think the Me Too movement was, you know, basically a political agenda to attack.
Wait, hold on. You don't believe all women, but you believe Alan Dershowitz?
No, I don't believe all men either. And I don't say I believe Alan Dershowitz. I would just say he probably knows more than most people.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What's legitimate, what's not.
I'm not sure about that, but this is the question I would ask Alan Dershowitz, and I would ask you, if you don't think, you know, why wouldn't they release anything if he committed any crimes? We have 10 co-conspirators that are in the Epstein files. We know a lot of men did a lot of horrible things to underage women.
Absolutely.
If there are 10 co-conspirators, they didn't make one arrest, no charges. That leads me to believe, whether it's Trump or not, it leads me to believe that they are hiding for people and that there's a lot of people that did a lot of horrible things. And just because someone wasn't convicted or accused of a crime or charged doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So that's what I would tell Alan Dershowitz.
I totally agree with you on that. I mean, absolutely. I think there are men in that. And I think I told you this when we met at AmFest. I believe in the death penalty for child rapists, for child molesters. You're basically destroying that child's life. So I am a firm believer in the death penalty for murderers, but I'm also a believer in the death penalty for child rapists. So I think if that's found to be true in anybody, Bill Clinton, President Trump, anybody who rapes a child, molests a child, to me, it's an automatic disqualifier from anything. It should be immediate prison or the death penalty.
That's where we have common ground. I completely agree with what you just said. I do find it interesting, though, that all these Bill Clinton photos were released and, you know, on the DOJ X account, they don't say anything. But then all of a sudden, all this Trump stuff is out there. And we're learning that now the White House is in charge of this X account, which I think is absurd. I mean, I would imagine you can't be okay with that. With somebody in Donald Trump's administration or a campaign manager tweeting out on that account, I find that to be abundantly inappropriate.
You know, again, unfortunately, I think we're in a position where everything's been politicized. I look at the weaponization of the Injustice Department under Joe Biden against President Trump, against all the J6ers, against all of their political enemy. Let me even back up beyond this. By the way, God bless everyone that's watching out there. Thank God tomorrow's Jesus' birthday, and we're celebrating that. And if you don't know Jesus, I would recommend that you find him. That's my prayer for America for 2026, along with Charlie Kirk.
Not to be confused with Cheeto Jesus. I'm sorry, Ben. Go right ahead.
Yeah, real Jesus. Yes. The one that came and died for our sins.
Gotcha.
And so, no, but look, I would back up beyond that. Where we are in our country today, I would say is untenable. We're in a place where government, especially federal government, the bureaucracies have grown to a place where they're unmanageable. It's not what our founders intended. You know, we talked a little bit about you brought up the separation of church and state. I'd love to go deeper into that at some point, whether that's today or not. But even beyond that, our founders never intended our federal government to be this bureaucratic nightmare that it is today. Most of these decisions and governance were intended to be done at the state and local level. The only thing the federal government was intended to do, what was specifically outlined in the Constitution. Everything else was delegated to the states and local government. And so to the point, beyond the point of just should the administration be making comments into the FBI or having a part in the X account of the FBI, I think our government is just grossly out of control either way. And the only way we get to that or get out of that is if we limit the scope and we actually have to start voting these agencies out of office.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, we're so far from what our founders intended that we call ourselves the United States of America. I see us more as the divided states of America. And unless something major changes soon, I don't see how we continue to govern as we do when you have places like Minneapolis and Chicago and Portland that are intentionally undermining our country from within, or just in a totally different paradigm than places like,
there's crime everywhere, and I think we could dive deep into that. I don't think sending ICE agents throughout the country and some that are not identifying themselves and attacking people and tackling people outside of courtrooms is the way to go. And per capita, you have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen than you do an undocumented immigrant. But you said something interesting. Joe Biden weaponized DOJ. By the way, under Joe Biden's DOJ, they convicted and charged Hunter Biden. I would also say, you mentioned January 6ers. I have no doubt, Ben, that there are some people that were overcharged and were not treated fairly. Okay, fine. But what about the people that beat cops? What about the 700 plus people that committed violent crimes who Donald Trump called patriots and hostages? He pardoned those people. Wouldn't you say that's weaponizing things and overuse of power? Blatant pardon for all these people. It's off their record. Some of these people beat cops. I know you're not okay with that. Some of these cops have traumatic brain injury. People died that day. People died in the weeks and months later. He called them
only people that were protesters died that day. But let me just back up.
Brian Sitnick died the next day, and there were 140 Capitol police officers were injured that day. Some of them have traumatic brain injury, and several officers sadly committed suicide.
Right. So the question, and so did many of the J6ers, sadly. The question is, who designed that? Why did that actually end up happening? You and I talked about this. You said it was because of President Trump inciting it.
He didn't concede. He didn't concede the election.
And I'm glad he didn't, because I think we're finding out now, and I think over these next few years we're going to find out that clearly the election was stolen in my mind, and millions of Americans.
Ben, you're going to make me blow my top here.
It was. But look, let me back up. Let's just say this. Okay, whether it was or wasn't, the fact that he went to Nancy Pelosi and he went to Mayor Bowser and said, we know that this potentially could get violent. We need National Guard troops there on this day. And they denied it. They refused it.
Trump could have done that himself. But let's go to the bigger point, though. We can talk about Capitol Police.
That all could have been undone. I believe it was intentionally done. I believe if we ever find out the truth, Nancy Pelosi intentionally allowed that to happen or invited it to happen. I'm just saying.
There has to be evidence for you to.
There clearly is evidence.
Ben, here's the evidence that we have. Here's the evidence that we have. For 4.5 hours, Donald Trump sat on his ass eating KFC. He was begged to put out a video to stop the violence. It took him 3.5 to 4 hours to do that. That is the evidence we have. Also, did you see how fast the National Guard were brought into D.C. when Trump wanted it there to help the violence there? Trump had the power to do it. He decided not to while everything was going on. He sat on his ass and he did nothing. That's dereliction of duty as far as I'm concerned.
It was the Capitol Police's decision. It was Nancy Pelosi's decision to not allow the National Guard in there that day.
Trump had the authority to do that. If you want to blame Nancy Pelosi, that's fine.
Either way, look, I don't agree with. I was there that day. I was outside the Capitol. I was reporting on the event. I don't agree with how people.
So why didn't you walk in?
I even saw that.
Why didn't you go in?
Because I didn't feel right doing it. But that doesn't mean that I didn't understand
against the law. Because it's against the law.
Yeah, but think about this, Brian. Think about this. We had just watched for the last 4 years as America burned down to Antifa and BLM attacking every police station in America because
that's not true.
Garbage protecting criminal thugs like George Floyd. We had watched that.
Whoa. Hold on. What do you mean? The guy was murdered.
They stole. No, he died of a fentanyl overdose.
No, he did. Hold on. Ben.
The coroner says that he did not die from a knee on his chest.
Ben, hang on. There were 2 autopsies that were conducted. Both of those autopsies found that it was a homicide. What you're saying is he was. Well, you can say but I'm just giving you facts, Ben. You're misconstruing what took place. Again, 2 autopsies.
And what I'm saying is going back based on what the American people saw, the weaponization of Antifa. I watched it across America where Democrat cities burned because they were invited to obstruct. You said President Trump doesn't bring people together. I would say it's the left that doesn't allow President Trump to bring people together. I think President Trump is a uniting president, but the vast majority of mainstream media and leftist politicians just don't want to see it happen. If we actually imagine if we had a Democrat Party who said, you know what, how about we just do things that are better for America? I'm gonna step back and say, I'm gonna come to the table with Republicans and say, let's try to find solutions to the problems that we have. But instead, what we had in the first 4 years of President Trump were lies about Russia, and now the second 4 years of President Trump, we're having these attacks by the same Democrats that invited the invasion into our country that are now going out and weaponizing illegals and criminals in their communities to obstruct federal ICE agents from doing their job. What we have is a country and a government that is intentionally divided by enemies within. And I go back to our founders. You look at what John Adams said. We have a constitution that it's incompatible without a moral and religious society, and that's what we have now. We have a constitution that was designed for
hold on, Ben.
People.
Ben, you've said a lot. Ben, you've said a lot of things that I disagree with. I'm going to try to go through them here. First of all, as I said before, and I say again, George Floyd was murdered. That was proven in a court of law. Well, what do you? Okay, but according to our court system, you can believe what you want.
The coroner said he had.
It doesn't. But Ben, they ruled it a homicide, which means somebody else was responsible. Here's another fact for you. Derek Chauvin is a convicted murderer. Now, you can disagree with the outcome until the cows come home. That is what took place, and it doesn't matter whether George Floyd was a bad guy or not. A police officer cannot be judge and jury. Here's another thing. Black Lives Matter protest. There was tens of millions of people that were protesting throughout the country. Never have I condoned violence, and I've never heard one elected official say, yeah, go ahead and burn down a building. Go ahead and do that. January 6th happened for one reason and one reason only, because the couple 100,000 idiots that were there, and that's what they were, in my opinion, who believed the election was stolen. I believe, and this is my personal opinion, there is no, it's not even what I believe. There's no, and you know this because we talked about this, there's literally zero evidence of widespread voter fraud that anybody has presented that could have changed the outcome of the election. Donald Trump is the only.
That's not true. I definitely don't agree that we agree on that. But
okay, well, if there is widespread voter fraud evidence, nobody was able to show it in a courtroom, and nobody has presented widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome. Donald Trump is the only president in American history that has not conceded. That is why January 6th happened. I don't condone violence, whether it was Black Lives Matter protest or January 6th, but let's not conflate the two. Black Lives Matter protests were there, and I was one of them, because we wanted equality, and we didn't want to see people that are brown that were treated or mistreated by law enforcement. The reason why all those people were there on January 6th is because they believed a lie. Yes, Donald Trump knows he lost. They believed the lie that the election was rigged and stolen, which has never been proven anywhere. It was proven that George Floyd was murdered. You can have your opinions, Ben, but it doesn't change the fact that a court ruled, and a jury of Chauvin's peers ruled, that he is a murderer. And when you have two autopsies, and both autopsies didn't say the cause of death was fentanyl, that is a lie. They called it a homicide, and the only way it could be a homicide and a drug overdose is if they were force-fed drugs. There's no evidence of that. So the reason why he died was Derek Chauvin's knee on his neck for 9 minutes, and that's why Derek Chauvin is behind bars right now, and he's a convicted murderer.
And he should be released. He should be pardoned. Absolutely. I mean, and again, I don't condone everything that was done on January 6th. I don't think everyone that was there behaved in a way that I would behave. Just like you said, you don't condone violence. But the setup for January 6th was set up by the left, and we could disagree about this.
What do you mean it was set up by the left?
It was. We had for what I just said. We had 4 years of insurrection against President Trump. And then they stole the election.
What was the insurrection? What was the insurrection against Donald Trump?
We had a coup by James Comey, by John Brennan, and by Clapper with Hillary Clinton to create a Russia collusion hoax, which was basically I mean, it should be charged as treason. Now, where I'm frustrated, I'm watching this entire thing where we're at now. What I don't understand is there's two things that we, the people that the MAGA want after President Trump's second term, and that's mass deportations and mass prosecutions against the people that attacked our country from within, that have weaponized all of our agencies against our nation. And that's what I want to see. So you and I are going to disagree on this. The total sham trial against Chauvin, it was a sham trial. It was basically to swell the violence that we saw across America. Chauvin was thrown under the bus to basically stop the BLM riots across America. But there's no doubt about it. All
right, well, Ben, can you name me one police precinct in this country where they are told when somebody is handcuffed and they're on their stomach and they're not resisting that you should be putting their knee on their neck for 9 minutes? Can you give me one precinct in the country?
Putting your knee on their back is a.
His knee wasn't on his back. His knee was on his back. It was on his neck. So I ask you again.
But that movement, that maneuver is how you deal with a.
That's not true. That's not true, Ben.
And in particular, look, if you look at the evidence of that day, and it's look, I don't like the fact that George Floyd died. I wish he wouldn't have committed the crime. I wish he wouldn't have used fraudulent bills and gone in there. I wish he wouldn't have been the criminal that he was. But the fact that he swallowed fentanyl and ice, methamphetamine at the same time to cover it up, and then resisted arrest, said he was claustrophobic, resisted arrest. Chauvin got on, then he got surrounded by people that had been weaponized against police, the whole de-police, the Minneapolis, all of this. Chauvin reacted in a way that I have a hard time saying, I'm not a cop, I have a hard time saying anyone would react differently. And I think he was the scapegoat for that.
We're not trained police officers. And just to get off the topic, again, to be clear, Derek Chauvin is a convicted murderer. His knee was on his neck for 9 minutes.
Convicted. I will agree with you. He
was
charged and convicted.
And there is no police precinct in the country. And by the way, I co-host a couple days a week with a former cop of 30 years. There is not one police precinct. Now, knee on somebody's back, very different. That's not what we saw. And you say the enemy within. Would you say that nonviolent immigrants in this country are the enemy within?
I would say the people that are obstructing ICE from doing their job and removing illegal aliens from our country are enemies within. We have people, hang on real quick. We have people that have sworn an oath that are sitting in political positions whose objective is to undermine this country, rebuild it into either the communist jihad or your jihadist utopia that they want it to be. And those, to me, are the enemies within. Now, there are a lot of illegal aliens in this country. I worked in the landscape and construction industry for years in California. There are a lot of people that came into this country illegally that don't have bad intentions for America. But we have a system now, in particular after what Joe Biden did in the last administration, where I spent the last 4 years down on the border watching tens of thousands of illegals brought in under the guise of we can't hold them, so we do paroled release into our country. And now those people are all throughout our country. They need to be removed. They need to be deported. They don't have a right to be here. And in that process, you are picking up some people that have lived here for several years that, other than stealing Social Security numbers and working for cheap labor, cheap wages and driving down wages, aren't really a danger to society, but they don't have a right to be in our country. And ICE has a right. But Ben, ICE has a right to remove them from our country.
But Ben, it's not. There's people not several years that have been here for decades. One situation where a father has several sons.
But if you're here illegally, Brian, bottom line, if you're here illegally, you don't have a right to be here.
Okay, well, but Ben, you said swore an oath. Didn't all these ICE agents swear an oath that you have to identify yourselves before arresting somebody? All across the country, there are videos everywhere of ICE agents not identifying themselves. You say swear an oath. Didn't you swear an oath to the Constitution when the Constitution says any person has the right to due process, not any citizen?
And they do. Every illegal gets due process. In fact, they get more due process.
Really? Did the people that got sent to El Salvador prisons, 60% of them nonviolent criminals? Really? What was their day in court? Can you help me understand that one?
They had judges. They had expedited.
Not true. Not true. Judge. Not true. Most of the people that were sent to this El Salvador prison had zero due process. People in this country every day that are getting deported to high maximum security prisons. And we've learned many of those people, non-violent criminals, they never got in front of a judge. Ben, with respect, that is the opposite of due process, and I know you can't be okay with that. There is evidence and proof. I'm not just throwing something at a wall. There are tons of people in this country that are not getting due process, and they're never getting the opportunity to see a judge. That is against our Constitution, and the Trump administration is breaking the law. They're breaking the law.
That's just not true. Based on everything, the evidence that I've seen, I ride with ICE and Border Patrol almost every week. Every single time they go out, they present themselves, who they are, why they're there, who they're after. They get the information.
Wait, help me understand, Ben.
And then every single one of those people is seen or is a judge determines.
Ben, so you're claiming that all the people that were deported to that El Salvador prison, as an example, you're making the case that all those people had the opportunity to see a judge? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily in person, but every single one of those people had due process. So if it's determined that they're a terrorist. And MS-13.
Most of those people were that's not true. Over 60% of those people, there's no evidence that they had any violent crimes in their record. And what I'm telling you is,
in America, well, this is really important. So this is
no police record, none, zero.
Yeah, that if they had violent crime, if they were known MS-13 members,
but they weren't. That's what I'm trying. That's the point I'm trying to make.
You and I would disagree on this.
All right. Well, there were some that were violent criminals, and I'm with you there. If you're a violent criminal, we don't want you in this country. 99% of America agrees with that. But the point I was trying to make is, and 60 Minutes did a story on this, over 60% of the people that were deported to a high maximum security prison where they were abused are people that have never committed a violent crime or even charged with a violent crime.
United States.
In the United States. These people didn't have police records anywhere. Their only crime was committing a misdemeanor and coming into this country. And I know you're not okay with that. That's the point that I'm trying to make. I hate, and I know we only have a couple minutes here, Ben, and I appreciate your time, and I know you got to run, but this is the problem I have. These people are being demonized, and you're grouping an entire class of people as their gang members. They had police records in other countries. Ben, that's just not true. It's not true. Most of these people that are being deported, some of them being put in maximum security prisons, never had the opportunity to see a judge in person or virtually. That is against what we stand for. And by the way, it's been proven. Kristi Noem, pretty much proved it herself. If you're seeking asylum and you're filling out the correct paperwork, like from Mexico, and you're seeking asylum, the government cannot deport you. And they're breaking the law. That's what our government says. If you care about our government and you care about rule of law, how could you be okay with that?
No, what you're saying is also not true. So the problem is when you come in and you're seeking asylum, we have a legitimate way of seeking asylum, and you do that before you cross to a port of entry. You do that actually in the first safe country that you come to. And the problem is that entire system has been bastardized by organizations like Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, Jewish Family Services, the United Nations, to weaponize our immigration policies against us to profit off of it. All of those organizations were teaching people how to game our asylum laws. They brought them in, and then Joe Biden and the Democrats then gave those same organizations the funds, billions of dollars, to transport them throughout our country, knowing it would be almost impossible for the next administration to round them up, and now weaponizing them against our administration. What was done unconstitutionally was done in the previous administration. If you come in, now I personally believe, if you come in illegally into our country without due process, you choose to avoid the due process coming into illegally to our country, you don't deserve due process.
But that's not what our laws say.
But I agree. But our government does give due process, and it actually gives above and beyond due process. And again, this is firsthand witness that I've experienced. It's not something third-hand, second-hand that I've heard other places. I've witnessed it. The entire process to me is more constitutional. They get more constitutional rights than I believe they deserve.
Okay. Well, we could leave it at that. But what I would say to that again, Ben, is when Kristi Noem was testifying under oath, it was proven the Trump administration is literally deporting people that are going through that process of seeking asylum, and they are breaking the law.
And if you came in, we have a right to. If you came in and were given parole release, and we pull that parole release and say, no, you have to wait in the country before you're allowed in. We can undo that. So the whole parole release thing was a system created basically in the last administration. The Remain in Mexico policy, the Supreme Court decided that. They said, no, you can't do that. And the Biden administration did it anyways. They continued to bring them in. The people that came in under false asylum claims didn't have a right to come in the first place. So I don't have any problem at all saying those people need to go. But I don't demonize all illegal aliens. Again,
Trump does.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Really?
It's human nature. It's human nature to want a better life for your family. It's human nature. If I was born in a third world country, my parents were missionaries in Africa. We've seen desperate poverty. I've seen terrible places around the world. I understand why people want to come to America. I don't blame the illegals that came in. I blame the policies and the politicians that invited them in. And in particular, I blame the organizations that profited off of it. Cartels are evil to me, but the organizations that profited off of child trafficking, human misery that I saw in the Darien Gap, those are the most evil.
I agree. Again, you're talking about violent criminals and terrible crimes. I wasn't talking about those people. I was talking about the people.
Even any illegal, anybody who comes in that thinks that they're doing something better for their family, coming here illegally, basically selling themselves to the cartels.
They're not the enemy within.
They're not all bad people. Those aren't the.
Well, you said they were the enemy within.
No. Those are not the enemy within. The enemy within are the people that are designing it, that are orchestrating it, that are profiting off it. Illegals themselves, I think, are just a tool that are being used by the enemies within.
If you don't want politicians profiting off themselves, then maybe Jared Kushner shouldn't have received $2.1 billion, and maybe Donald Trump shouldn't have accepted a $400 million Qatar jet, and maybe $5.5 billion resort in Qatar. If you care about politicians, profiting, then maybe you should talk about that too.
This is an area we have common ground. Now, I think Trump has given up more money than anyone else has, but you look at politicians profiting off of being politicians, that's got to go. I think we need tenure in Congress and the Senate. These people that go in with $100,000 in their bank account and they leave with $30 million in their
agree.
bank account,
Yes.
that's got to stop.
I agree. Ben, let's end on a good note. We agree on that. All right. Hey, before I let you go, I want to say thank you for talking to me out there at AmFest. It didn't start off very well. That was probably my fault. I take responsibility for that. But I appreciate you coming on. I'll gladly do any of your shows anytime you need me, and love to do this again sometime, Ben. It's a good conversation, and I hope you have a good Christmas, you and your family. Okay.
Hey, you as well. I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm happy to come back.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's Ben Berkholm, everybody. He is the founder of Frontline America and host of Law and Border on Real America's Voice News. Obviously, my head spins when people like Ben say Trump won the 2020 election. I mean, it's hard for me to have a serious conversation with somebody when they say Trump won. That is very difficult. We have another guest coming up in 15 minutes, but I do want to take some phone calls at 702-221-7283. Your reaction to that interview. It might be the last time you get to talk to me before Christmas because we're off the air tomorrow and Friday. 702-221-7283. I am really excited because in about 15 minutes, we're going to be speaking to the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, Karen Hunter. Does a great show on satellite radio. I did her show, and I really wanted her to come on and talk to me. So she's going to be coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. But this is the time where I'm going to be taking some phone calls from some of you. Interesting, different sides of the equation. We just had Ron Filipowski on from Midas Touch, and now we just had Ben Berkholm on, the founder of FrontlineAmerican.com. All right, let's go to Jason. Jason's first up on PTL. What's up, Jason?
I'm going to say this really short, and it's going to be poignant. Number one, this is the reason why I'll never have anything in common with MAGA, no matter what. Mm-hmm. I will never, ever, ever, ever. There's no common ground. There's nothing good in them, number one. Number two, the man said something about Jesus. He don't even know Jesus, because two things I'll say. In the Bible, it says, with loving kindness do I draw thee, not with with ice and Christy Gnome will I turn you to Jesus. That's number one.
Yep.
More than anything, he follows Donald Trump, who is the greatest liar in the world. Yeah. And it says in Proverbs, if you follow a liar, you go to hell with him.
So Jason,
two things that man, he don't know nothing about.
Jason, I agree with what you just said. So Jason, I got into a more aggressive conversation with him in person. If you go on my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, I did have a conversation with him that was maybe a little bit more aggressive. And like I said, I appreciate him talking with me. And listen, I don't know Ben personally. All I can tell you is that he treated me with respect, which I appreciate. But I did point out that he's a Christian when we had the debate in person. And the conversation I had with him was, I said, how could you be a Christian and support this guy who's all over the Epstein files and all the horrible things he said and all the horrible things he's done and the things he said about Rob Reiner? And the thing that troubled me the most about that in-person debate I had with Ben was that he didn't have a problem with the statements he made about Rob Reiner. Now, he wouldn't have made those statements, but it's like, dude, if a liberal or a Democrat that I like behaved the way that Trump behaved and the things he said after somebody like Rob Reiner and his wife are murdered, I would call it out. Why can't you just say as a Christian or a human being, that was wrong? The president shouldn't have said that. That's what I was looking for with Ben. And I think that in our conversation, and maybe next time he comes on, I'll ask him about that. But that was what troubled me the most. We need to be able to call out people who do bad things. And I think most of us could agree that was horrible. Thank you for the call, Jason. Let's go to Scott, 702-221-7283. What's up, Scott?
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Scott. What's up?
I have to say it was real hard to listen to that guy, but, I mean this with all due respect to Mr. Cardinale, because he can't defend himself right now, but he chides me for being negative, and when I hear that stuff, it infuriates me.
Okay, so hold on. What was most troubling about that interview? Like, what was the one thing
Just
that Ben said? Go ahead.
Lie after lie after lie. How about Obama had been putting people on ankle bracelets, and he had 97% of them going back to court? How about the fact that in 2024, there was going to be a law passed to fix the border, and Trump said nix it? They didn't really fix the border. People don't want to come here because Trump's an idiot.
Well, let me start by saying this. When somebody tells me that Trump won the 2020 election, that's when I roll my eyes. There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. They could talk about Georgia and this happened there. Nothing's been proven in a court of law that would prove that Trump won the 2020 election. And the reason why, so that's problem. That's problem number one. I don't like the saying that Trump says the enemy within. You know who I think the enemy within is? People who have Trump fellatio syndrome. People who can't.
How about
that? To me, that's the enemy within. You have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from a citizen than you do somebody undocumented. And for somebody that's lived here 20 or 30 years, that has a family here, there has to be some sort of pathway to citizenship. I want violent. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, real quick.
Sure.
When they came over on the Mayflower, were they documented?
Yeah, listen,
No?
I talk about that all the time. This country was founded on immigrants, and Donald Trump. And thank you for the call, by the way, sir.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
What did they do when they got here? They started raping the natives and putting them on reservations. I know Mr. Cardinale don't want to hear that.
I don't disagree with you. This country was founded on immigrants. The enemy within are not undocumented immigrants. By the way, that's a misdemeanor. So if you care about rule of law and misdemeanors, then maybe you should care about the guy you support who is a 34-count convicted felon. And you know what their argument will be? Oh, those were just misdemeanors, and that was politically motivated. So if it's one of theirs, it's only politically motivated, right? It's Biden's DOJ. But if somebody never wants to take to account the horrible things that Trump has done, and yes, he is a 34-count convicted felon. Number to call, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Johnny. Johnny's next. Hi, Johnny.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Brian.
What's up, Johnny? What's on your mind?
Well, I think it's going to be a great Christmas. Trump just gave our troops an extra $1,776 right before the Christmas. They used the tariff money, and those guys are going to have a great year. They're putting their life in line. How could it not be a great Merry Christmas?
Well, because not the entire percentage of our brave men and women in uniform are in this country. What would you say about all the people that are in student loan debt around the holidays? And Donald Trump just said he's going to do wage garnishment up to 15% of what you make. How do you think those people are going to do when they're losing their Medicaid coverage? Up to 20 million people are going to lose their Medicaid coverage. Millions of people losing their food stamps, people that have not served this country. I'm totally fine with helping out financially people that have served the country. But what would you say about all those other people?
So we agree on that, right?
Yes, but what would you say about all those other people? That's my question to you. The people that are losing...
The people that promised to pay money back and haven't?
The people that are losing their Medicaid coverage, that are living paycheck to paycheck, the people that are struggling to put food on the table, that have their food stamps, the people that are going to be getting 15% of their wages garnished. That's a serious problem, would you say?
Well, if they promised to borrow money and they're not paying it back.
That's exactly what Donald Trump did. That's exactly what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump has taken out numerous amounts of loans and bills that he could not pay, and then he filed for bankruptcy. And then he has to pay pennies on the dollar. Were you okay with that?
It's illegal.
I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you.
I'm fine with it. Yes, I'm fine.
So a billionaire, hold on.
Why don't you let these people file bankruptcy?
Hold on. You're okay with billionaires being bailed out. You're totally fine with that. But when it comes to people that are making maybe under $25,000 a year, working several jobs, and now they're losing their medical coverage and their food stamps, you're totally okay with that. And yet you're okay with billionaires getting the biggest tax breaks ever in this country, $100 billion this year, and you're okay with it, and your only defense is, well, it's not against the law. Come on, dude, you sound ridiculous. Are you a Trump mushroom gobbler? Be honest. Because you sound like one. You sound like one. You sound like you're typical.
If you take out money from the great nation of America, then guess what? You got to pay it back. They're not paying it back. He's going to get our money back for us. Why would we not want people to pay their money back?
I don't. Why would we not want people to pay their money back? What about all the PPO loans? What about all the PPO loans during COVID? So many Republicans, by the way, and Democrats and Republicans that own small business, they never had to pay back all those loans. Why weren't you complaining about that? These are the same people that don't want debt forgiveness. Joe Biden was trying to help people that are struggling, and Donald Trump is taking that away. In fact, up to 15% of your paycheck. How could you be okay with that? How?
I've already explained it to you, Brian.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. No. No, you haven't.
Loans that were given out were to help, and they helped, and nobody that got one had to pay it back, whether you're rich or poor, as long as you had a business. So there's not an issue there.
So are you okay? Here's a fundamental difference between you and me, as my headphones aren't working as usual. But here's a fundamental difference between you and me. Okay, as I get my headphones working, as they're not. As usual. Here's the question that I would ask you. Okay.
The fundamental difference is that I agree with the rule of law and follow.
Okay, so you agree with the rule of law. Did those people on January 6th that beat cops, was that rule of law, or were they sentenced after their sentence? Did they actually go through that entire sentence?
Ryan, I don't think you're going to believe me, but I am in agreement with you on that. However, I'm 100% in agreement. Or you're not in 100% agreement that people that borrow money should have to pay it back. So who's actually the real person that's consistent?
So you're okay with the loopholes of billionaires taking out all these loans like Donald Trump did and not paying that back. But you're okay with that because there's some loopholes for these billionaires. You're totally fine with that.
Everybody can use the same loopholes. I don't see.
Not everybody's a billionaire. Not everybody's a billionaire, dude.
But if you are, you got to use the same loopholes. I don't think you seem to understand, Brian. I'm the consistent one here, and you're not. And you always talk.
Really? Who won the 2020 election? Let's see how consistent you are. Who won the 2020 election?
Let me put it this way.
No, don't put it anyway. Answer the question, dummy. Who won the 2020 election?
Biden.
Okay. Was it a free and fair election?
Yes, it was a free and fair election.
Thank you.
Brian.
Why were those people there? Why were those people there?
Why are you not
I'm very
going against
consistent.
me when you know that I'm right?
All right. So you're not. And it doesn't seem like you have a moral compass and you're totally okay with what Trump is doing to these people at Christmas.
Following the rules and the laws.
Okay.
Not a moral compass.
You care about hold on. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up for a second. You care about rule of law and people following the law, yet you support a 34 count felon. Please explain that one.
I didn't say I
Oh, stop it. You are Trump. All right, stop it. There's not one person. There's not. You won't answer the question. No, don't. No, be quiet. Be quiet. I don't need your Merry Christmas. Be quiet.
You're not allowing this.
Did you? Everybody listening to this conversation knows that you're a Trump mushroom gobbler and a Trump knee pad wearing fool. For you to say that and not admit that you voted for Donald Trump makes you an imbecile. You don't even have to answer the question. We know you voted for Donald Trump. We know
I did. I voted for Donald Trump. Yes, I voted.
Oh, well, thank you. So why didn't you say that to begin with, you dope? You voted for because you're talking about the rule of because you talked about the rule. All right, then why did you vote for a 34 count felon?
Because I felt that he was the best person at the time.
Oh, okay.
To run our great country.
So it doesn't rule of law doesn't really matter to you, even if you're a 34 count felon. If a black lady is running against you, is that a fair characterization, sir?
No. Why do you always go to race?
Tell me why you didn't vote for Kamala. Tell me why then. If it's not race, tell me why you didn't vote for Kamala. Name me one policy.
I'm a Republican.
Name me. I don't care what party you're on. Name me one policy that you didn't.
You just asked me a question.
You're a Republican. Guess what? Donald Trump isn't.
You're wrong.
Donald Trump hasn't been a Republican his entire life, and he's a 34 count felon. Name me one policy that you didn't like.
He ran as a Republican.
What are the three branches of government? What are the three branches of government?
The three branches of government.
Do I stutter? Do I stutter? What are the three branches of government?
The Senate, the presidential, and the House of Representatives.
The presidential? You can't even name the three branches of government, you dope. You're a dope. You can't even name the three branches of government. Please, you're an uneducated, ill-informed fool. That's what you are. Where did you go, to Trump University? This bozo can't even name the three branches of government. Get the hell off my show. God, these people are so stupid. They want to talk about rule of law. I'll tell you why this guy didn't vote for Kamala. Because she's a black woman. That's why. Notice how he didn't want to admit that he voted for Trump. Yeah, it's really hard to do these days to defend these, Donald Trump. What a bozo. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And is she ready to go? Oh, okay. I did not know that. All right. Joining us right now on the show, she's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, a professor, a publisher. I was lucky enough to be on her show. I've been listening to her for a long time. I just think she's absolutely awesome. And I'm very sad that one of my lists, she had to listen to that phone call, but this is what I have to deal with every day. The awesome Karen Hunter from the Karen Hunter Show joining us right now on the show. Karen, thank you so much for being here. It's good to see you. How are you?
My pleasure. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you. I don't get to engage with folk like that, primarily because I'm zero tolerant. I can't do it. I can't do it. I admire you though, sir. You have stamina, and yes, you. Whew.
Can I ask you this? As a black woman living in this country, am I wrong to assume that when I'm talking to a middle-aged white guy like that who voted for Donald Trump, that a part of the reason why he didn't vote for her is not because he's a Republican, because he refused to vote for a woman who happens to be black?
Well, number one, I can't speak for all black women. I can only speak for myself. But I would say that race in this country is such a weird thing, that there are people who speak Spanish who also feel the same way. There's people who are immigrants who feel the same way. There are people who have been, I mean, if you think about the indoctrination, and how media has been used, music and television and movies, and it has been transported across the globe, the negative images of blackness. There are black people that don't think Kamala Harris is black. So it becomes very strange. There are black people who didn't think she was black. There were people who didn't think Obama was black enough.
Yep.
So it's so it's across the board. And let's talk about the 54 or 53% of white women who will never do the right thing. Never.
I completely agree with you there. 93% of black women, I think it was 92 or 93, did not vote for Donald Trump. Yeah. 80% of black men, which is 20% too many, but 80% of black men did not vote for Donald Trump. So I'm in completely in agreement there. Here's my issue, right? I would love a woman to become president. I have, depending on who it is, but I have no problem with it at all. But I feel like if the Democrats put somebody like AOC in front, let's just call it for what it is. For whatever reasons, women are 0-2 against Donald Trump. I want a woman to be president. I have no problem with it, but I'm afraid if they put someone up there like an AOC, and I'm not saying they're going to do that, but if they do, we might get the same result to no fault of her own. I just think there's a lot of people in this country, sadly, that don't want a woman to be president.
Here's what I understand about this country. It's a nation of cowards who also love to jump on bandwagons. I'm old enough to remember when Barack Obama was running, there were black civil rights leaders who were Team Hillary, who were not on his side until Iowa. And it took white people in Iowa for black civil rights leaders to say, that's our guy. And then the bandwagon began. So, Brian, I don't know if AOC ran. A lot of people didn't think Mamdani was going to win in New York. Like he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell. I want to let's put out the best candidates and let them inspire us and let them, let's stop cherry picking and determining what Americans will stand for. Let's put some good people out there and see what happens.
I agree with you. I think to no fault of Kamala Harris, and I talked about this on your show, one of my biggest criticisms of Joe Biden, I think he's a decent man, but I thought he did a disservice to the country by not stepping down, or at least saying he was going to be a one-term president much earlier. Kamala did not have enough time to run, and that was one of my biggest criticisms. Do you feel like that's a fair criticism?
Yeah, I mean, he said he was coming in to be the bridge. He should have stepped down 2 years in. Should have honored that. But we can't play the shitter game. Here's where we are. And in many ways, I don't want to say this, but I kind of feel like this kind of had to happen. I think a lot of people were in zombie land or thinking that, there's some better angels, that this country, there's something going on here that we can come together. This told me everything I needed to know about the true nature of a lot of people in this country. And so everything is negotiable at this point.
Yeah. It's interesting because, Karen, when I went to Trump rallies, and I had to go, not because I wanted to go for my job, and I took a lot of flack because I made some videos saying it feels like I'm at a Klan rally. And the reason why I said that, I'm not saying everybody there was racist, and maybe that was extreme language, but it was 99% white. I saw Confederate flags. I went to AmFest over the weekend in Phoenix, and it felt the same way to me. I didn't see Confederate flags, but I saw a lot of anti-Semitism. I saw predominantly white people. And then when I go to these events that are put on by the left, whether it be a Kamala Harris rally or others, it feels like America. It's diverse. Why do you think that so many on the right hate the word diversity? And it seems like every single time somebody that's qualified that happens to be black, they want to use the term DEI hire.
That's a relatively new usage of that, like woke, how they try to co-opt that. I think a lot of people, far too many, don't want to work on themselves. So if you are, not successful, you're looking, is your mama, it's that black person, it's that Mexican, it's everybody but the person in the mirror, right? So if I can find somebody who's helping me scapegoat my own inadequacies and my mediocrity, I'm with it, because that means I don't have to work too hard. And if you would just get rid of these people, I could be successful. If you could just get rid of these people, I could be successful. Well, what if we all left and you're left with your little self and you're not successful? Who are you going to blame then? So I think that is primarily the case, that far too many people don't work on themselves. So it's so much easier to fall into this blame game, and then project we're the victims because we're calling it out. I'm like, how does that make sense?
Right.
Oh
and
my
when
God.
and Karen, when I talk about race, and when I talk about, whether it be, January 6th, they always want to bring up Black Lives Matter. And I say, do you believe systemic racism exists? Now, obviously I do. And the answer I get from these MAGA Republicans, they don't believe systemic racism exists. In fact, they believe that black people are treated better than white people. I mean, when it comes to law enforcement and as a whole in society, obviously I disagree with that. What do you say to those white people that voted for Trump that say systemic racism doesn't exist?
I'm not speaking to them. They're not on my to-do list.
Mhm.
I made a conscious decision. I'm protecting my peace. I'm not trying to convince them. Believe what you want. Stay over there. Since you want to self-segregate, 3/4 of white people self-segregate. Stay where you are. Why are you concerned? Don't listen to my music. Don't eat anything with my spices in them. Don't come into our neighborhood and try to, tip in to get, whatever you want to get. Like stay where you are. Be happy in Montana, North to South Dakota. Like stay where you are and think what you want to think and believe what you want to believe. Don't come over here. I'm not engaging. And I'm hopefully the cold breeze that you feel from not getting this good warmth and this good that we have will maybe, but they always come. We can have a whole ass town of black people like we did in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Wilmington, North Carolina, Eatonville, and here they come. They come. Memphis, Tennessee had a whole grocery store, modern-day black, good, happy business. And you mad because nobody wants to come to your grocery store because you won't step up and be better. You can't compete. They want to talk about competition. You don't want to compete. So I'm challenging everybody to get their Anthony Joshua on this year. Let's snatch some souls and break some spirits and be happy and have joy and double down on the things that matter and be good people. And I'm moving away from even this race conversation because it is very complicated. You have to explain Ramaswamy and Marco Rubio and all of these people and Ted Cruz who have co-opted themselves into something that is never going to really see them as human and whole. Let them be. And let's focus on what we need to focus on. Are you a good person? Are you a good person? What does that mean? And let's let that be the line.
And I agree with what you just said. And by the way, Vivek Ramaswamy only recently decided to call out these people because it was directly affecting him. So I don't have a lot of respect for him at all. Let's talk about the Epstein files real quick here. Obviously, this is something that MAGA Republicans have been obsessed with for a very long time. By the way, I want every single person, every victim getting justice. And isn't it interesting now that Trump is telling his supporters he's calling them stupid for even bringing this up? I'm just wondering, Karen, I'm sure you've talked about this. What do you make of the files that have been released where let's call it for what it is. Trump has been accused of rape by at least one victim and a limo driver. There are 10 co-conspirators that have not only not been named, but never been arrested or charged with a crime. What do you make of this?
Well, I'm old enough to have covered the Central Park 5. Right. I was at the New York Daily News when that happened. Mm-hmm. And I remember the full page ads that this man took out before there was a trial for these children. And I was like, wow. And his wife wrote a book where she said he raped her, right? Mm-hmm. His wife, his first wife, who was an immigrant. Was she an immigrant? Okay. Is this wife an immigrant? I'm confused. We don't like immigrants, but somehow genius grants get handed out to people who barely can speak English. I digress. But so for me, the Epstein file is not is a surprise. We knew that the first time. Didn't he say he grabbed people by the pussy? People just let you do that? Was he an adjudicated sex offender with E. Jean Carroll? Like, this is not news to anybody who's been paying attention. My question is, why are you okay with an adjudicated sex offender leading this country and representing all of us? Is this something that you would really teach your children is okay? And if you're okay with rape or sex offense, then what are we even having a conversation about? The Epstein file feels like a red herring. in so many ways because we already knew this man had no impulse control. Stormy Daniels told us a porn star said that basically she was raped. It's like, what are we doing?
I completely agree with you. And now here we are on Christmas Eve where the Trump administration has just announced up to 15% in wage garnishment for people who are in student loan debt. Joe Biden tried to do the opposite for good, hardworking Americans and people that are struggling right around the holidays. I find it so despicable. And yet these are the same people like the Trumps of the world, the billionaires, right, who file for bankruptcy and have to pay pennies on the dollar and never have to pay back their debt. But yet people that are struggling and to put food on the table are losing their food stamps. They're losing their Medicaid coverage. And he does this the same week of Christmas. What do you make of that?
It's on brand. Let me ask you. I was listening to that caller who is like, well, they signed up to pay something and they should pay it back. I know, fortunately, I didn't have student loans. My dad paid for my 4 years of college. I'm so grateful. But I know so many people who had to pay tens of thousands. I know a lot of doctors, $300,000 in debt. I know a lot of lawyers, $300,000 in debt. And most of that is interest. Like they paid their loan already, and most of that is interest. And it is debilitating. You're paying a mortgage for an education that you took, loans you took out 10, 20 years ago. It's inhumane for a 6-time bankrupter. He bankrupted a casino and a football league, something that seemed to be impossible.
Casinos. It's hard to bankrupt a casino.
So let me ask you the defense of this. Oh, well, I'm the rule of law, the rule of law, the rule of law. Like, how do you reconcile with a man like the one that just called up? Because there's a lot of people cross racial bounds who feel like you took out this loan, you should pay for it.
Karen, I'm going to give you a perfect example of what you're talking about. So I had a MAGA supporter call into the show. They do from time to time. And he called people who beat cops during Black Lives Matter protest thugs. And then I asked him about January 6th, and he didn't have a problem with any of them. And I said, what's the difference? If you beat a cop during a BLM protest or you beat a cop on January 6th, I think both of those people, regardless of the color of their skin, should be held to the highest extent of the law. Here's the reason. It's racism. You're a thug if you beat a cop and you're black during a Black Lives Matter protest, but you're a patriot and a hostage if you beat a cop on January 6th. That's who so many in Donald Trump's base are. And it's sickening to me, and it gets me angry. I can't imagine how angry it would be for somebody like you to hear people talk like that.
I don't get angry. We've been 400 years in this. Mm-hmm. This is okay. So there's a resilience or an understanding. It's a weird. W.B. Du Bois called it double consciousness. It's weird to be in a country where you've had to look at it through the lens of a perceived denigrated position and being great at the same time, and having people underestimate you and say bad things about you, and then have to, navigate this space at the same time, understand it, right? Which is something that these folk don't have to do. And I want to say thank you to you, Brian, because every day you sit in this space and you are battling, you are here doing the thing. I refuse to do it. I'm not fighting. My ancestors fought. I'm not doing it. But
Karen,
we need more Brian. Huh?
Thank you. Sorry. No. I appreciate you saying that, Karen. It's probably not good for my health. If I took your approach, I'd probably be a much happier person. It's very stressful. I was out there at AmFest, which is Charlie Kirk's event.
I know.
And I was out there debating people, the Unf America tour. I love them. And I was out there, but I got to be honest with you. Like I was really, and listen, I was treated okay out there, but I'm embarrassed that there are I hate to say it like this, but I'm going to say it. I'm embarrassed that there are so many white people in this country that are so ill-informed, uneducated, and can't see life through the lens of somebody that looks like you. And they call themselves Christians, right? The evangelical right. And they just only see things through their own lens, right? I mean, these are the same people that say all people of Islam should be deported. I'm defending Islam. I'm a Jewish guy. I'm defending that. It's wrong because not every Islamic person is a bad person, but they just put people in all these groups, right, Karen? And it's stressful. And I do my best, but there's a lot of ill-informed people out there that unfortunately look like me, and they watch their Newsmax, right, and their Fox News, and they're brainwashed. I'm not saying all these people are bad people, but I think a large portion of them are extremely ill-informed and uneducated.
Well, that makes them bad to me because it's your responsibility as a grown person to do better, to know better, to want to be better, right? It's your responsibility. You're in this. God bless the parents. I was just thinking about this today. The first time your child challenges you is when you really start to become a parent, right? Everything's cool when it's coochie, 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 but then when they get to an age where they're challenging you, and I feel in a lot of ways people have not conquered that in themselves, how to parent, and they haven't parented themselves. And they, it's really a self game that I'm talking about, right? Like, what are you really made of? Are you that big of a coward that you can't confront something that might disagree with what you were taught? I'm always looking for the answer that is a counter, because I always say, like, I believe in that Jesus Christ existed, and I'm a follower of Christ. And I would ask these people, what would Jesus do? Since they like to wear the bracelet and everything, what would Jesus do? What you're doing to these people? Would Jesus be talking about other people the way you're talking about? You follow Jesus? What Jesus in the Bible is doing these things. So let's confront that. But also, like, what does it mean for me? I'm like, my God is so big. My God doesn't need me to fight. Is your God that tiny that you're out here trying to squash other people to believe what you believe?
Yeah, it's so true, Karen, what you just said. And by the way, I have no problem with religion. I believe in God. I'm not an atheist, but here's what I will say.
Wait, hold on. Even if you were.
Yeah.
So what does that have? Again,
I agree.
What does that have to do with me? Why should I care if Brian doesn't believe in the same God that I believe in? Does that make him a bad person? Does that mean we can't have, conversations? Does that mean I can't like you?
It's my biggest criticism of people that are extremely religious is they push their ideas on others and they don't let people live their own lives. And I was going to say, I feel like when it comes to some people on the evangelical right that are bigots, they attack people for being gay, or they attack transgenders, or they attack brown people. I feel like they hide behind their religion. There are different groups of people that are religious. There are people that don't push their narratives on other people. They just, like you, they want people to live their life and be happy. And then there are others that just say, if you're not like me, if you're not a straight white male, then you're a sinner, right?
I thought Grindr was going through the roof during the. Are they straight? Tap, tap, tap on the bathroom floor. Are they straight? Where Lindsey Graham is at? So are they?
That's true.
They'll protest too much, Brian. They protest too much.
Do you know a guy, Karen, named Myron Gaines? Are you familiar with him?
Maybe. I don't know.
He's a man of Islamic descent who attacks homosexuals. He's made a living attacking Jews, black people, homosexuals, and he's Islam. And I believe he's gay. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being gay. I called him out for that, and there were pictures surfacing online that are real of him in bed with other men half naked. By the way, nothing wrong with that. But I tweeted it out, and he got so angry and so defensive. And I feel I agree with what you're saying. The people that are the most anti-gay people in this country are usually, sadly, I feel bad for them, people that are in the closet themselves that are afraid to come out.
Yeah. I want everyone to get as much sex as they want legally, consensually, and to just be happy. I think this is a very isolating, and COVID didn't help. COVID, I think, really brought that to another height. The loneliness. And when I see people that angry, two things are happening. And this is something that we have to, kind of suss out over the next year or two. Either you're doing it for a platform, because unfortunately, people can now create income around this kind of rage that they are evoking. Because now, people are going to come to your page, and the more people who come, the more money you make, right? Shout out to all the people on YouTube right now and Instagram and all the places that you're watching, Brian. But that is a commerce driver, right? So you don't have to believe anything. You just have to rage bait. Boom. You got people. So I'm not even engaging with folk who I believe are in this a grift, because you're not offering anything edifying. So I'm telling my audience, if it's not edifying, if you're not learning something, if it's not helping you to see something that you hadn't seen before, then this person is grifting, and don't help them by sharing and engaging, because the engagement helps the algorithm send more people there, and that's more money for them.
You are so correct. I have to stop engaging with some of these people. It's not good. And I completely agree with you. This would be my last question. I'm just curious. If the elections were held tomorrow, which clearly they're not, but if they were, who would be your front runner on the left that you would support? I mean, there's a lot of talented people within the Democrat Party, I think. But what would be the ticket for you? Because my ticket right now is not necessarily the people that I like the most, but people who have the best chance to beat, like a J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio ticket. And I do go with Gavin Newsom, even though he has some flaws. I don't think he's this horrible guy. And I would go with Gavin Newsom and maybe AOC as VP. That would be my
Okay.
plausible pick. What do you? Who are some people that you're looking at right now? And I know we're a little bit of ways, but again, the midterms is right around the corner. So yeah, what would you say to that?
For the record, you could beat JD Vance. He doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning.
I hope you're right.
Okay. No, I mean, like for real, like you could beat JD Vance right now. I would like to see a real primary. I want to see people stand up to the ETH. I want to see them answer questions. I want to see them come. As I tell my audience, this is not a popularity contest. It's not about who you like. It's about rights and resources. Elections are about rights and resources. That's it. Can they deliver? Have they delivered? And what are they offering? But more importantly, what are you requiring of them? Because that's the exchange. We get in the voting booth. We pick the people we like. We like that name. We don't like this person. This person's ugly. I'm not voting for them. But we don't vote for the things that I need some things in my community. Can this person deliver? Are they going to do right by me and mine? And if the answer is no, and when they don't show up to answer questions, who's funding them? Who are they in bed with? All of that matters. So I'd like to see a whole field that would include a Gavin Newsom, a Wes Moore, an AOC. I want to see everybody. And I want them to run. I want them to fight it out. And I want to see who emerges as the person. And I want us to vote collectively for our common humanity.
Yeah, Wes Moore. I'm a big fan of Wes Moore. I think he's phenomenal. I like Josh Shapiro, not because we have the same last name. I think Shapiro is great. There's a lot of good young people. Moore's one of them. And I completely agree with you on that. Let's get that primary. Let's let people listen to different ideas. Those are all.
Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, let them all come in. Let's have a real race. Let's have a real race and then make the difference real stark. These people, and it's not to me, I don't get caught up in left and right. Because, as you mentioned, Donald Trump was never a damn Democrat or Republican. He was a funder.
Right.
He was a Democrat in New York. All his children were Democrats. They couldn't even vote for him in the primary. And they didn't change their party affiliation because they're Democrats. But what is a Democrat today? What does it mean to be on the left? What does it mean to be a Republican when your president is not a Republican in policy? Unless Republican means racist and MAGA. And if that's what it is, then let's be clear.
That's the base, unfortunately, right now. That's Donald Trump's base. I've seen it firsthand. Karen, before I let you go, I absolutely love what you do. You have a wonderful show, and I've been listening to your show for a long time. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Can you tell people where to go? I know you're on satellite. Can you tell people where to go, how they can follow you, how they can watch your show? Because it's a phenomenal show, and I love what you do.
Well, I so appreciate you. I love what you do. I'm on Sirius XM Urban View Channel 126, where Talk Empowers and Becomes Action. I'm on 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, so we overlap. So I can only be here because we're off this week, but you come on my show after your show. I want to do more of that next year. And I have a YouTube channel as well, Karen Hunter Show, where I put clips up. So it was funny having people come in, and I'm like, this ain't the show, but you're going to comment, on a snippet. You don't even understand what this is, but okay. It allows me to block you because you're not supposed to be here. And those are the two places that I sit. And I have a whole community called Nubia where I live every day as well. But,
I love it. I love it. I love what you do, and happy to do your show again anytime. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas Eve and Christmas. Do you have anything planned tonight?
No, this is another day for me. I'm actually planning for 2026. This is the corridor that I spend imagining what the next year should look like and how I'm going to serve the people, because that's what this job is. And you do it very wonderfully. So happy holiday to you and yours as well. Happy end of Hanukkah and all of the things.
Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate the time, and have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. That's Karen, everybody. I love Karen. Karen Hunter's the best. She's one of my favorites. I love her show. Please check her out. It was so great because her producers reached out to me. My understanding is Karen watched some of my videos, and she's like, I want to get this guy on. That's probably pretty much how I find people. I said, I want to get this guy on. I want to get her on or him on. And that's kind of how we connected. And I did her show, which was a lot of fun because I've been listening to her for a while now. Obviously, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. You don't get a chance to talk to many people like that. So certainly an honor for her coming on. All right. It's going to be our last break before Christmas. I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break. And when we come back, we will be taking more phone calls from you. I got getting text messages from people. Why didn't you open up the phone lines longer? Well, because we had 3 guests today. So I'll open up the phone lines again, 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. We've talked about a lot today, and we've had 3 guests. Your call's next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi. I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
All right, welcome back. Can you believe it? It's Christmas Eve, everybody. And then we have the new year right around the corner as I sip some iced tea. I'm telling you, ever since I went out to Phoenix for AmFest, my voice has been shot. Maybe it's screaming at too many MAGA. I don't know. I'm getting some compliments on the hat. I don't know how you guys feel about the hat. It's not my normal hat that I would wear. It's terrible weather outside. It's freezing cold and it's raining. So I decided to wear my winter hat today. So here's the deal. Here's our schedule before I get to more phone calls at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the show, 702-221-7283. Here's the schedule as it goes. My understanding, and I'll confirm with Numchuck here live as we're speaking. We are off tomorrow because it's Christmas. We're going to be playing a best of on Friday. My understanding, right, on Friday. And then I believe what day is New Year's Eve? So Wednesday night is New Year's Eve. Okay, is that correct? So we are going to be doing the show live on Wednesday, right? It doesn't affect us. And then obviously New Year's Day on Thursday, we're off. And I don't know yet. We haven't decided whether we're going to be on Friday, which is the day after New Year's, which would be January 2nd. Haven't decided on that yet. So that's kind of like the schedule and the lineup of what we're doing. We put up material. We put up segments. We put up audio, video every single day. So if we're not on the air, like say tomorrow, because tomorrow's Christmas, if you go on my YouTube page, we're still going to be putting stuff up. My editors are still working hard and they're still going to be putting stuff up. So that would be the best thing that I would recommend. Also, there's the website around the holidays. Obviously, we run an independently owned radio show. Yes, we're on YouTube. Yes, we're on TikTok. Yes, we're on Twitch. Yes, we're on Facebook. But the fact of the matter is that the best thing you can do for us, well, there's two things you could do for us, especially now during the holidays. Word of mouth. Tell your friends about this show. Tell your friends what time it is and when to watch and to get involved. Recommend they subscribe to the YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. I am happy to announce that we just started a month ago posting videos on Facebook. We just started posting videos. We did our live show on there, but my editors just started being active on Facebook. We just passed 41,000 subscribers. We're getting like 1,000 a day. It's crazy. And the amount of numbers that we're getting, YouTube, we're averaging between 2 and 3 million views a month. On Facebook in the last month, I think we've had 6 or 7 million views. It's crazy. And the show's blown up, and I have all of you guys to thank. But that's number one. Spread the word. Okay, that's number one. Spread the word about this show. That's the best thing you can do to help us. Number two, go to my website where you can make donations, and it doesn't matter how much it is. It's whatever you can afford. You can do a one-time thing. You can do a monthly donation. You go to my website, pushingthelimits.live. And when you go to that website, you'll see a little icon there that says donate at pushingthelimits.live. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever you can afford, man. $5, $10, $20 a month. I'm sorry, I'm not selling Brian Bibles. For you Trump supporters out there, I am not selling Bibles on there, okay? I've never been charged or convicted of a crime, so I can't sell you patches of my jacket the way Donald Trump did, my sport jacket. I can't do that. Sorry, it'd be fake. But maybe I could sell patches of like a beanie. I don't know. Maybe I'll do something like that. Maybe we could work something like that. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Numchuck just said we should sell Trump mushroom gobbler condoms, but they would be too small for most people, so I don't think that would work, right, Numchuck? Numchuck never talks, by the way. He never talks. He's never on camera, but he's here now. What are you doing for Christmas, Numchuck?
Dinner and presents, just like
dinner
everybody.
And presents. You have a large family.
I do.
Yeah, you do. You have like 30 kids, right?
34 kids. Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a good Christmas Eve. And Numchuck has to put up with me every day, which is probably more stressful than me dealing with MAGA every single day.
Facts.
I'm losing my voice, by the way. These 2 days off could not come at a better time. I'm literally losing my voice. I can't talk. So some of you might be asking, what are you doing for the holidays? Before I get back to the calls, I know there's a couple people waiting on hold. Tomorrow, I am going to a friend's house. Actually, I'll just say what it is. What's the problem with it? Z, a good friend of mine who runs the Un-F America tour. We're going to her house where her husband's going to be there. Her father is great. So we're going to be spending Christmas tomorrow with them. I'm really looking forward to that. A wonderful family. Friday's kind of going to be a spa day for me. Yes, I'm going to be soaking it up in the spa and just relaxing and having a good time. Can't wait for that. I'm planning on going to the Raider game on Sunday, arguably the worst NFL game in the history of Las Vegas, where the Giants are playing the Raiders in the toilet bowl, as I would like to call it. This is an interesting game. Okay, hear me out on this. This is an interesting football game. You know why? Because whoever loses this game is going to get the number one pick. So both teams are going to be tanking, and I know the NFL is going to be watching it. Here's my pick. Bet the under. Okay, I don't see a lot of points being scored in that game, but I do plan on going to the Raiders game on Sunday. Might watch some college basketball over the weekend as well. And then in a couple weeks, my favorite band is coming to Las Vegas, the band called Live. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, holidays are, I haven't really, set in stone exactly what I'm going to be doing next week, but that's the plan for the next 4 or 5 days. And that's what we're doing. All right, let's take a few more calls. It wouldn't be a show without, the MAGA destroyer, Darlene. Darlene, happy New Year's Eve. I almost said happy Christmas Eve. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. First of all, from all of us at PTO Nation, we want to say thank you, Brian. Thank you, Numchuck, and thank you to the station, because you guys rock, and it is so refreshing to have the truth and not all these lies like these other idiots put out. I just want to thank you personally myself, Brian. I love you, and I appreciate this platform that we can talk and, tell the truth out there.
Well, Darlene, that means a lot. We love you as well. We appreciate your phone calls. You and Jason bring up. Can you imagine if Jason and Darlene were debating a MAGA? Oh, my goodness. I would not want to be on the other side of that. You guys bring the fire every day. I love it.
Brian, I do have something to say to Ben.
Yeah.
Now, this has nothing to do with Ben. But, Ben, I want to ask you a question. What if that had been your family member and he had his knee on his neck?
Yeah.
How would you feel about it? Because that was a murder.
Of
We're
course
not
it was.
stupid. We all have eyes.
And by the way,
I want to ask
you're
you
right.
that question,
He characterized, I'm glad you brought that up, Darlene, because he characterized the knee on the back. That is exactly not what happened. And then he claimed that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. Maybe we should, as my friend Robbie Roadsteamer would say, Maybe we should look into Charlie Kirk's death and maybe see if he died of a fentanyl overdose. I mean, these people are so stupid. I mean, I'm sorry, man. Listen, I don't think Ben's a dumb guy. He knows what happened to George Floyd, but I think it's very disingenuous when you bring that up. And as I mentioned before, I bring the facts. I mean, there were 2 autopsies that were conducted. Both said it was a homicide. You can't die of a self-induced drug overdose, and then they label it a homicide. Homicide means somebody else was responsible for your death. So Ben is 100% wrong on that one, and I was disappointed to hear him say that. Darlene, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas tomorrow, okay?
You too, but Brian, before I go, even a murderer, somebody can murder somebody and be running, and guess what? The cop shoots him, but then guess what the cop does? He tries to save him. That's all I'm going to say. So, take that, Ben.
Thank you, Darlene. Always bringing the fire. I love you, and I know PTL Nation loves you also. Love your calls. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Brian. Brian is next up on PTL. What's up, Brian?
Don't forget me, Brian, when you add in, Darlene and Jason.
Of course. How could I forget? How could I forget?
I hate MAGAs just as much as they do, if not more.
Wait, I thought this was Herb.
No, this isn't
No,
Herb.
no. Herb is he's got some diarrhea right now. He got some issues right now. He's okay.
Brian's impersonation of Herb is spot on, though. I have to give him credit for that, where credit is due.
It'll come back. It'll be pretty good for this new year. In this new year, you never know what you're gonna
get. Come on, give me like 10 seconds of Herb. Just 10 seconds. That's all I'm asking for. 10 seconds. Come on.
See, Brian, you always do that. See, you always do that. You never let me talk. You always interrupt. You always pod down. I don't understand you, man. I thought you were doing that.
We're going to pod you down, Herb. No, I'm just kidding. Brian, it always makes me laugh, man. Your Herb impersonations are phenomenal. By the way, if you don't know who Herb is, he's one of the dumbest callers we have here on PTL Nation. And Brian does a phenomenal impersonation of this man. And I don't know where Herb is. I hope Herb has a nice Christmas, and I hope he calls back sometime.
I wanted to say something to you, Brian, kind of like, thinking back on what Darlene said, what she always says. You want to know the people that white, racist, conservatives, Republicans, you want to know who they hate the most?
Who's that?
We know they hate, Jews, blacks, gays. We understand all that. But you want to know who they hate the most? People like you. Other white people that doesn't support their vision of what America should be in their eyes. They can't stand you. And that's the reason why we love you so much, man. Black people. You know what I'm saying? Because you heard it before. You would be an honorary. You're invited to the cookout. Ask the black person what the cookout is.
Well, that's nice.
You would be an honorary African American.
I love barbecue.
We salute you. We'll take you in, man.
Listen, my ex-girlfriend of 20 years ago, who happened to be black, once said she thought I was black in another life. So I don't know. I guess I'll take that as a compliment.
Merry Christmas, Brian.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays to you, man.
You're the best, Brian. Merry Christmas, and I appreciate you. Yeah, I love that Herb impersonation. It's so good. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Listen, I'm not trying to make myself out to be the victim. I'm not. I decided to get into this business, and I decided to do political talk radio, and I enjoy it most of the time. And I haven't really talked about this on the air, but I've received death threats, and I've had some crazy stalkers in the last couple of years. And even when I was out there at AmFest over the weekend, I didn't really talk about this publicly. But as soon as I finished my debate with Alex Stein, as I got off the stage, one of Myron Gaines' friends went up to me and started calling me a bunch of Jewish slurs. Took a couple people to hold me back because I was going to sock him in the face. And I'm glad I didn't do that, because that would have been against the law. And I didn't want to spend the night in jail. But I have to take some advice, and maybe advice from Karen. I think she gave me some really good advice. You just have to put this off. And I've done a pretty good job over the last year or so of not even paying attention to trolls. And that doesn't bother me, by the way. Anybody can say whatever they want about me on social media. I don't care. They do. And I really don't care. I just focus on my job and what I'm doing here. But obviously, when you see somebody in person that gets right up to you and starts throwing slurs your way, it's very difficult to just ignore something like that. Maybe I have to do a better job of it. But yeah, that did happen. It was one of Myron Gaines' friends, shocker. And that's what took place. And that comes with the territory. You're going to get people that are going to say some pretty nasty things about you. You're going to get people on social media that are going to say some horrible things about you. What I care about is what my friends and family think about me. And, I've never been charged or convicted of a crime in my life. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but can't say the same about Donald Trump, can we? The 34-count felon, liable sexual abuser is the person that they support, but yet they want to say nasty things about me. I think the worst thing that I'll do in my life is call somebody a right-wing buffoon or a Trump mushroom gobbler. That's probably the worst thing. But listen, we're around the holidays now, right? We are in the holidays right now, tonight being Christmas Eve. And I'm saying this for, of course, all the PTL fans that are on the right side of history, but even people that are Trump supporters that are obsessed with me. Have a good time. Spend time with your friends. Spend time with people that you care about, people that care about you. Life is so damn short. I cannot believe I am 45 years old. I don't know where my 30s went. But life passes you by really fast. And I hate to quote the great Matthew Broderick, but life passes you by pretty fast. You don't know what you missed. And it rings true, right? We talk about a lot of serious topics on this show every day. And these are stressful times that we are living in, but you have to be able to decompress. You have to be able to enjoy time with your family and friends. And I'm hoping that's what the holidays will do for all of you. So we will be back live on the air Monday. And I have a very special guest that I haven't confirmed yet, but a big one for Monday. And I do want to thank Ben Berkwam for coming on the show from Real America's Voice. And of course, Ron Filipowski, we're so lucky to have him on the show every week. And boy, Karen, wasn't she a breath of fresh air? Wasn't it great talking to Karen from the Karen Hunter show? She is phenomenal. So please be active on our social media pages, especially YouTube and Facebook. Just because we're not on the air for the next 2 days doesn't mean we're not putting up new content and content we haven't put up before. So please check that out. Pushingthelimits.live is the website. If you want to make a donation during the holidays, we'd appreciate that. Pushingthelimits.live. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great Christmas. We will see you live on Monday.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok.